guys, welcome back to my channel, Shelf Life Extension. My name is Alexis, and today I'm coming at you from my bedroom rather than a spare bedroom, so no background bookshelves for you guys today. Mainly because my sister Becky and my niece Ray are visiting from Japan, so they are using the spare bedroom. They are in there, their stuff is everywhere. There's no way that I can get in there to film. And it's like, I could figure it out, you know? It's a nice day. My room isn't that horrible. I have this ugly ass corkboard shit on my walls. It's been there my entire life, and it's really ugly and annoying, but it helps me stick up things, you know? So, I mean, like, So, I know I didn't do a reading wrap-up for February or March, mainly because I went to the Philippines at the end of February. I was there for 2 weeks, and I read a crap ton of things during my time there. I didn't read too much throughout March when I got back, or at least physical books. Yeah, I read one. It's in the stack. I'm just going to talk to you about the books that I read throughout February and March outside of what I read during the Philippines, because when I was in the Philippines, I brought my dad's Amazon Kindle thing. I downloaded a whole bunch of free books, and I read a crap ton of Regency romances, and it was great. They were fun. Can I name off any of them? Not really. If you go through my Goodreads, you can see pretty much all the ones that I read, because I made sure to go through and count those, but can I distinctly remember any of them or what happens? No, not really. I can remember a couple. I read a couple other things outside of the Regency romances, but like, it was a lot. Maybe another video on those. Instead, I'm just going to talk about these ones, because these are books that I've mentioned on my channel before, either in like hauls, or they're series that I'm continuing with, or authors that you know, all that good stuff. So we're just going to go ahead and talk about those. Alright, so we're going to start off with the 2 Laurel K. Hamilton books that I read. I mentioned this in my shelf video that I just did, my book tour, that I had more than was on there, and that's these 2. It's Burnt Offerings as well as Blue Moon. So with these ones, if you haven't been following me or know about this series, it's about Anita Blake, who is a necromancer. She can bring back people from the dead, and that's her job. You know, a lot of people are looking for the lost family jewels or whatever, want to ask a question of their dead relative, and she does that. That's her job. But with that, she also is a legal vampire executioner, and she has so many kills under her belt that she has a reputation going about her. But because of that and all that she does and just the kind of person she is, she gets involved in all the supernatural paranormal beings within the city. So that includes the vampires, that includes the werewolves, were-rats, were-leopards, were-panthers. There's were-everything in this series, as well as everything else. The zombies, the ghouls, and all that. Everything is in this series. And she just gets involved and gets like herself stuck in the middle of it all. With Burnt Offerings, there is an arsonist who is going about the city and like hitting up known vampire establishments or other monster establishments. And so she's like, what the heck? What's going on? And she has friends within the monster community that she's like, okay, I need to be involved in this. And so she does. With Blue Moon, her friend Richard, who is a werewolf and actually a Ulfric, which means like leader of a pack, gets sent to jail under the suspicion of raping and murdering a girl. And so obviously she gets involved in that, trying to exonerate him and everything like that, and finding out what actually happened. So there's a lot going on in the story that's continuing with her, with all the groups that she's associated with, and overall her powers and how she is interacting amongst it all and faring, which isn't well most of the time, but she gets through it. It's a great series if you are interested in an urban fantasy, paranormal, supernatural, vampires, werewolves, kind of traditional sci-fi fantasy series. They are cheap, you know, $8 books, and they're a lot of fun. And if you like True Blood or anything like that, this is a great series for you. And yeah, so continuing there. I don't know when I'll get the next books, but I'm in no rush. But I'll be happy when I do. So that's 2 more of those down. Alright, trying this once again. The next book I read was The Aeronauts Win Last by Jim Butcher. Now this is the first Jim Butcher book I have ever read in my life, and a lot of people are surprised by that and have told me to my face or asked me why I didn't start with like the Dresden Files or anything. Well, mainly because I really wanted to read this one because it's like space piratey. I mean, come on, there's a space pirate dude on the front, and that sounds great. I'm always into that, and I wanted it. I'm kind of pissed though, considering that this is supposed to be a new, first in a new series, right? And this book has come out a while ago. I've had it for a couple years, and the next book isn't out yet. There is no prospective release date. There is nothing. I've checked his website, and it says he's currently writing it. It's in the process, but I don't know what's actually happening. All I know is that I am not holding my breath. I would not be surprised if it gets canceled or it comes out way later, but it just kind of sucks considering there's so many other books that he's putting out, and it's like, you started this, why aren't you finishing it? I just want to know. Just let me know. But I'm happy I read it. It's been on my shelf for so long, and it was a really fun read. It's really, really freaking thick, and there's a lot in it, but it's so much fun, and I really, really liked it. And I just really hope that another book comes out. It just makes me kind of sad. But anyways, this book takes place in a world where pretty much the outside world is toxic. Humanity has drawn back to live in these protective spires, right? Which are like these huge protruding towers where people live, because there are crazy monsters that live out in the wild and that like to eat people, and although they haven't been seen for a while, it's still just too risky, and again, the environment isn't conducive to people living there and surviving. But either way, so these spires, they are all run differently. They all have their own hierarchy and power and everything, power lines, all that good stuff. And pretty much it's between Spire Albion and Spire Aurora. They are having a cold war, mainly because they believe there's like certain weapons, or they've discovered something that they want, and Aurora's kind of always been wishing to get above Albion. That's my impression. That may not be correct, but that was my impression. And it's pretty much, it's about this Captain Grimm, who is in charge of a merchant ship called the Predator, and how he gets commissioned by the headmaster, I don't know what the real word is, the head dude for Spire Albion, to try and transport something down to the lower levels of the spire, and to do it kind of silently, you know what I'm saying? Try and be out of the way. But then in doing so, they kind of get involved in these Albion agents who are on missions to try and figure out what's going on, and to stop any soldiers or people from Spire Aurora getting into their spire and fucking shit up. But the big problem here is that all of them discovered that those crazy beasts I was talking about that live in the wild, well, yeah, they're kind of they're reappearing again, and that means disaster for pretty much everybody involved. So it goes beyond just these two spires having their little tete-a-tete, and involves much more. So it was really fun. I really like the world building in it. It was a lot to take in at first, and it was really hard for me to get into it the first time around when I started reading it, but you know, once I just sat down with it and like let it take me where it would, it turned out great, and I'm really happy with this book. It's really fun, and I just really hope that, you know, he gets on his shit and does another one. That'd be great. That was really a hard one. I'm sorry if none of that really made sense. I highly recommend you checking it out on Goodreads to get some, maybe even a better idea of what the heck it's about. There's a lot in it. There's a lot to unpack in that story. I'm not gonna lie. But anyways, we're gonna move on. So this is The Lazarus War, Book 2, Legion. Now, I said I was reading this maybe a year ago in a video. I started it, but then I didn't continue with it. This is again, Book 2. Book 1 is The Lazarus War, The Artifact, which I read a couple years ago, and I really like this series. It's just a really cool sci-fi, space travel, aliens, war kind of story. And, you know, I like that every now and then, apart from my normal historical fiction that I'm always kind of consumed in. Some space aliens is where it's at. So if you don't remember me talking about this series before, it's about a man named Conrad Harris, who is part of a simulant operations group through the military, and he is sent out with a team to pretty much act as defense against the hostile alien race known as the Krell. So the Krell are, you know, the very typical xenomorph aliens. When you think of like Alien the movies or anything like that, that's pretty much what I think of. And they are unforgiving. And they've been going at it with humanity for quite a while since our, you know, exploration of the stars and all that good stuff. So in the first book, they went into the Maelstrom, which was a kind of free-for-all area in space where there's no rules. And they had sent a science team within the Maelstrom to try and discover more about the Krell, to try and find a weakness that they can use against them. But then, of course, that scientific team goes silent, and then they send in Conrad and his team to try and figure out what happened. And while they're there, they find, whoa, the artifact, which again is kind of like a huge tower thing, but it's like a huge antenna that sends out a signal that nobody understands because it technically doesn't belong to the Krell. It's much older than them, and it's technology that they've never seen. So they believe that it belongs to a different race altogether that doesn't exist anymore. Or so they think, right? So then here comes this book. It's a couple years after the fact. They've come back. Haven't done any crazy things out into the Maelstrom anymore. They don't know anything that's happening with the artifact or any discoveries that are being made until now, when Conrad Harris and his Lazarus team and everything are sent on a mission to another found artifact. Whoa! But this one isn't like a huge antenna thing. It looks more like a circular disc that looks like a, you know, pretty cut and dry space alien ship, right? And so they have to try and go inside because they've discovered that it does respond if you are there and will let you in. And while he's in there, you find that the long forgotten race of things that have created the artifact may not be so dead after all. And he also finds his quote unquote dead fiance who disappeared years ago hanging out in this thing. Like, what? Like, what? He's been searching for her for so long because, like, their ship had gone off on a mission and disappeared, right? And no trace until now. And so he's, like, dead set going in that thing, trying to figure out what the heck these things are, what this ship is, what it all means, and what the heck happened to her, and where the rest of her crew is, and everything like that. So it got, like, way deep in this second book compared to the first one. Like, way deep, more personal to the characters, which I really, really liked, and I'm really excited to continue with the next book to kind of see what happens with the aliens, the Krell, with the other aliens, the ancient aliens, with him and his crew, and also his fiance who's still alive somewhere. I don't know, it's crazy. But anyways, to get all back on track, this is a great series. I am so happy that I randomly picked it up few years ago and have continued with it. I just really love the concept. I like the graphic imagery that's there. I just really like the progression of the story because it's taking me somewhere I didn't think it was going to take me, and I'm falling in love with the characters more and more as the story continues, and I think that's really great, and it's just something that's surprising me every time I get back to it. So highly suggest and recommend this series in case you guys are interested in some crazy ass alien space shit. Okay, so moving on, I finally got to The Chemist by Stephanie Meyer. Obviously, I bought this at 50% off at Barnes & Noble way back in the day when it first came out. Hardcover. I'm not a hardcover person, guys. I think you should know this. They just take up so much space and are unforgiving, though they can be pretty. Oh, I'm trying to take off the sticker. It's not working. But anyways. So I've had this on my shelf for such a long time. I brought it with me to Florida because I was expecting to read it there. I never read it, so then I brought it back home and I was like, I'm gonna sit my butt down and I'm gonna read this damn thing. Cause it's Stephanie Meyer. She's not my favorite author. I really liked The Host in comparison to everything else she's written, right? And I was really excited to see what she did with this, since it was going in another kind of different direction compared to everything else she's written. So I really wanted to give it a try. So this story follows a woman who is on the run. She used to work in an undercover, like super secret agency where they would come up with programs and chemical combinations to use in torture and interrogation of enemies. right, of the US. But something happens in which they think that she's a liability. And so she's like, fuck this, I'm not gonna sit around and get killed. And so she goes on the run. And she's been on the run for about 3 years at this point. She's always been a step ahead. She's changed her name, changed her look, she's changed her location. She's always on the run, and she knows what she's doing and she can do it well because she knows the people who are looking for her. But lo and behold, random one day, she gets an email from her old boss who's like, we actually really need your help. Like, I know we've been trying to kill you this whole time, but we need your help with this because this is beyond us. There's a biological weapon involved, and we just need someone with your skills to get the information that we need, and fast. So they give her a target, they give her the name, they give her all this information, but whoa, lo and behold, it's a setup. It's a setup. It's all fake. It's not real. And so once she finds it out, she's like, shit. But then she gets involved with other people who are also kind of on the list to be murdered by the same agencies. So they become involved in trying to save their own lives, knowing that, you know, maybe it's not the best for them, but it's something that needs to be done so that way they can ensure their survival. Now, this book, I liked the story and I liked the concept. But the thing with Stephenie Meyer that I've noticed that I'm not very much appreciative of anymore is that her characters, though, are in like positions and are meant to have the mentality of people who are in charge, who are kind of on a higher level. I don't know if that makes sense. But then as the story progresses, they like revert to a younger personality, something that feels a lot younger, feels way more not necessarily vulnerable, but just doesn't necessarily match with like what was given to us at the beginning. And for a lot of people that might not be a bad thing, that might actually be a good thing. But for me, I was just like, these people, they just feel like teenagers in a setting where they're not supposed to necessarily feel like that, you know. I just don't feel like they matched the age and the maturity and the setting that they should be at. And it was kind of really bothersome too, as well, that the romance took a pretty intense turn in the story. It became more front and center throughout it, whereas I didn't think it was necessary. If the romance wasn't so front and center, if the characters felt more like their age and like their profession, they're assassins for crying out loud, you know. She created stuff to torture people and did some of that torturing. That is just like, I don't know, you'd think they would be a little bit more grounded, I guess. I don't know where I'm going with that. It felt off the moment that it kind of reached like the halfway point. It just felt like I was reading a YA novel again, and I wasn't down for it. So that's unfortunate, but I am glad I read it, and I can finally like tick it off. If you like Stephenie Meyer and if you like her writing, then you will definitely like this. Like, it's an easy read. It's a really interesting story. All the details are there and it felt really good. It's just that one little thing that just kind of happened. And I don't know, that just kind of sucks, you know, when you're reading something and you're really excited for it and then it's just, it doesn't feel right. It just doesn't sit right with you. Anyways, we're gonna move on. To end everything on a high note, we're going to talk about At the Edge of Summer by Jessica Brockmole, which I got this on the discounted shelf in Barnes & Noble when I was in there last time. It's from the same author who did Letters from Sky, which I talked about in a video or two ago. And I was like, perfect. I love her and I want to read more from her. So yes, I'm going to get this. So this story follows two separate perspectives. It is one of a girl named Claire Ross. The second is of a boy named Luke. So Claire is 15. That's how it starts. She is sent to live with family friends in France because her father has died. Her mother walked out on her a long time ago. They couldn't get a hold of her grandfather, who travels a lot, so she had nowhere else to go except for these friends in France who are happy to take her in. And so she's there, pretty stubborn about the idea that her mother will come for her, even though her mother left her a long time ago, that they'll never find her grandfather, and that she's just going to be stuck here in France with these people who aren't even family, and figuring out what the heck, like, where her place is in the world and everything. But there she meets Luke, who is the son of these family friends, and he's you know, he becomes her friend, and they become good friends, and they spend a wonderful summer together where they, you know, kind of fall in love. They kind of explore a little bit what it means to be together and there, and then lo and behold, kind of war breaks out. So war breaks out, Luke gets sent into the war, Claire is discovered by her grandfather, she goes to live with him, and then everything kind of falls out from there. They do send letters to each other, but then letters get lost, and they think that both of them kind of fallen off and don't care anymore, but then they become reacquainted and reunited later in life, after the war is over, and they just kind of have to discover what it all means again. Like, was their relationship real? Is it something that they want to continue, and kind of go from there. It's really cute, it's really sweet. I really loved it. I loved the characters. I love the way the story progresses. I love where the story goes. I just think it's wonderful. It's a wonderful, nice historical romance. It's about that idea that, like, even though life changes and you go your separate ways, that the important people will stay there. Even if that means that they disappear for a while, but that they come back, it means that they're meant to be there. And I just love that. I think that's beautiful. And I'm really happy I got this. I am happy it's going to be on my shelf. I'm happy I have read more from Jessica Brockmole. I still want to read her other books because she does have a couple other ones. So I'm going to be on the lookout for those. Otherwise, I think that's about it. I've struggled through this video, as you may have noticed. Sorry for any crazy cuts in between that are jostling or anything like that. But yeah, so those are the books that I've read. There are so many other books that I read that maybe I'll do another video about. I don't know. If you want to know, you can check out more on my Goodreads. You can leave me a comment down below. I'll be happy to do that. Otherwise, hopefully I can get another video out in the next couple weeks and talk about something else that's fun. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, just leave me a comment below. I would love to talk to you guys. Otherwise, follow me on social media. Instagram is great. I'm there all the time. Again, follow me on Goodreads, and then yeah, and subscribe here if you haven't. Otherwise, I'll check you guys out later. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the sun if it's sunny there. And if not, then I'm sorry. I'll see you guys next time.